Modi's visit an important milestone. Dosti, diplomacy and drone deals on the cards. Countdown to mega Biden-Modi Milan. Top focus on 5 Live.
The relationship between India and the United States. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Washington, D.C., the second part of his America tour. This relationship is being described as 1. Transformational. 2. Historic. The optics are all right, but let's now come to the substantive part. What does this relationship mean for India and for the United States of America? Much more on this big story during the course of this next 1 hour. I'm Gaurav Sawant. As always, let's get started with the headlines at 5. Ahead of the Modi-Biden bilateral, India and the US signed the mega jet fighter deal, signed an MOU on it. Semiconductor facilities to be set up in India. Space cooperation likely to increase. The Bidens host Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the White House for an intimate dinner. First Lady gifts Prime Minister Narendra Modi an antique American book carry-off and a vintage camera. In other news, ahead of the mega opposition meet in Patna, discord in opposition unity, Aam Aadmi Party threatens the Congress to back the ordinance, or the Aam Aadmi Party would boycott the opposition meeting. Karnataka power tariff war escalates. Protests and band over power tariff. Steep 30% power tariff hike by the government triggers protests. Ajit Pawar reveals a larger ambition in the NCP, says post of leader of opposition stifling for him, demands key NCP post instead. On India today, our top focus remains Prime Minister Narendra Modi's historic visit to the United States of America. He's a state guest. He will get a 21-gun salute when he visits the White House. There is a bilateral one-on-one with the US President Joe Biden, then an extended bilateral. Then, of course, the Prime Minister addresses the US Congress for the second time, a historic first for an Indian Prime Minister. Let me take you through the top developments so far. Big story, GE Aerospace signs an MOU with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited to produce fighter jet engines for Indian Air Force, a major milestone during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's official state visit to the United States and a key element in strengthening defense cooperation between India and the United States. US President Joe Biden and the First Lady Dr. Jill Biden host Prime Minister Narendra Modi at an intimate dinner at the White House. A special Garba performance was organized for Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the vegetarian dinner. The US First Lady Jill Biden personally inspects dinner arrangements at the White House. The menu focused on marinated millet, the Shri Anna, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi describes it, among other spreads. Prime Minister Narendra Modi gifted a lab-grown 7.5-carat green diamond to the US First Lady Dr. Jill Biden. The green diamond reflects earth-mined diamonds' chemical and optical properties, and its cut, clarity and luster is like the real diamond. From a delicately carved silver coconut to an idol of Lord Ganesh, Prime Minister Narendra Modi gifts Joe Biden an intricate box containing 10 different donations. Modi's 10 gifts signify the Hindu principle of Das Dhanam, which is given to someone who's past the age of 80 to signify 80 years on earth. So after a world record was set at New York, United Nations headquarters, maximum number of people from different nationalities doing yoga together at the International Yoga Day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi flew to Washington, D.C. He said he was thrilled to see the diaspora and was blessed with Indra Devta. It was raining in Washington, D.C. when Prime Minister Narendra Modi got there. He was invited to the White House for a private dinner with the U.S. President Joe Biden and the First Lady Jill Biden. An evening witnessed an exchange of gifts and a grand welcome on arrival of the Prime Minister of India. It is said that Dr. Jill Biden directed in-house chefs to prepare a stunning vegetarian meal in the honor of the Indian Prime Minister and include the Shri Anna. Remember, India wanted 2023 to be declared the year of the millets, the superfood. We bring you this report.
Day one of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Washington, D.C. was all about Desh Bhakti, delectable delicacies with the Bidens and Desi Diaspora Dhamaka. Modi arrived at the Joint Base Andrews in Washington, D.C., where he was given a ceremonial guard of honor in heavy rains. The Prime Minister, who was wearing a raincoat, stood throughout in rapt attention for the national anthems of the two countries, unmindful of the torrential rains. From the airport, Modi travelled to the hotel where large and boisterous Indian diaspora members were waiting for him. The Indian American community staged cultural programs including Garba and folk dance outside the hotel in Washington, D.C., where Modi is staying. In his first public interaction in the U.S. Capitol, Modi and U.S. First Lady Jill Biden then visited the National Science Federation and interacted with students.
हमारी वर्तमान और आने वाली पीढ़ियों को एक बेहतर भविष्य सुनिश्चित करने के लिए ये हम सभी का दायित्व है। इस उज्जवल भविष्य के लिए आवश्यक है एजुकेशन, स्किल, इनोवेशन और भारत में हमने इस दिशा में कई प्रयास किए हैं।
If we want our economies to be strong, we need to invest in young people who are our future. We need to ensure that they have the opportunities that they deserve. Education is the cornerstone of the bond between India and the United States.
Seeing the interaction between the Prime Minister and First Lady today, there was a tremendous energy in the room, and it really made me aware of the depth of the intellectual and scientific collaboration between India and the United States.
To hear their thoughts about the various opportunities available and their passion for education. And I'm really looking forward to how I can combine all this inspiration to achieve something worthwhile.
President Biden and First Lady Jill then hosted Modi for an intimate dinner at the White House. Jill Biden was seen personally supervising the dinner table and the delectable vegetarian spread laid out for the Prime Minister. Modi and the Bidens were seen sharing hugs, handshakes and warmth. Prime Minister Modi met immediate family members of President Biden. Modi and Biden exchanged exquisite gifts, which included a lab-grown 7.5 carat green diamond for Jill Biden from the Prime Minister. An enamored Jill was seen trying out the diamond on her ring finger.
Tomorrow in the morning, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be back at the White House in Washington, D.C. It starts with a 21-gun ceremonial salute where the American president will welcome the Prime Minister. Then they get down to bilateral talks, which will be followed by a press conference. Then the Prime Minister in the afternoon will be addressing the joint session of Congress. And then in the end is the state banquet, which is what a lot of people will be invited for, which is what the buzz and the hype is all around. But before that, the meat of this visit, the bilateral talks between the Indian Prime Minister and the American President.
So the optics, the 21-gun salute, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a state guest, and the substantive conversations in the bilateral and the extended bilaterals. What all would that entail? Ambassador Meera Shankar, India's former ambassador to the United States, joined me on the broadcast. Also with me is Group Captain Augustine Vinod, a fighter pilot, on the significance of the defense hardware that India's likely to acquire from the United States of America. Does it also include co-production in India? We'll discuss that in greater detail. But before that, I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Foreign Affairs editor, Geeta Mohan, joining us from Washington, D.C. with this report.
The state visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi begins with a ceremonial welcome out here at the White House. State visit includes street lining of flags that you can see, the Indian and the American flag now flying high here in Washington, D.C. across various important and critical streets. Bilateral talks, press statements, all of that will take place right here at the White House. We are given to understand that there is going to be press interaction. In a rare occasion, questions would be taken. What will be interesting is the outcome of this very important meeting, the very important visit, as to what really is going to take place when it comes to space collaboration, defense collaboration, health, economy, education, and various other aspects. In Washington, D.C., this is Geeta Mohan reporting for India Today.
Ambassador Meera Shankar, is this visit actually historic and transformational as it is being made out to be in your appreciation? You've been our ambassador to the US.
Yes, I would say it's a very, very significant visit. Being a state visit and Prime Minister Modi's first state visit to the United States, it's high on protocol and symbolism. So the ceremonial welcome, the state dinner, the address to the joint houses of Congress, but the personal dinner which President Biden hosted for Prime Minister Modi is extra special. It normally does not figure in a state dinner, so it's a special gesture, though they do have small private reception before the state dinner. And also the fact that he is addressing the Congress for the second time, that is something which very few world leaders have done. But looking beyond the protocol, because the protocol is really the bells and whistles intended to, convey the significance of the relationship. But what matters is what are the substantive outcomes and how much are the two countries able to advance their strategic partnership. And here we are looking at substantive outcomes. Of course, the relationship is a very broad-based one, because the US is our largest economic partner, with trade in goods and services last year touching over $190 billion. They are also our largest technology partner and largest source of finance for our companies, financial partner for our companies. Investment is still low, and also the trade target, which was set of $500 billion, means that both countries have their work cut out to try to reach that target, which is still some way off.
So is something holding back the relationship, or is this visit actually intended to send across that message that nothing is holding us back anymore, whether it's from the American side or the Indian side? No hesitation of history.
I think that is true, especially in the defense sector. 2 decades ago, we didn't buy any defense equipment from the United States because of the differences that the two sides had post-independence and during the Cold War. Now, of course, we have bought defense equipment worth over $20 billion from the US. But looking beyond it, we have been trying to forge a partnership for joint research, joint development, joint production. And there was the Defense Technology and Trade Initiative launched during President Obama's time to try to concretize proposals for this. But it didn't really take off. There were pilot projects which were undertaken under DTTI, but no very big proposal could get off the ground. So not sufficient ambition and continuing hesitations on the US, particularly with regard to sharing technology. Now we are seeing this GE deal with HAL for the F414 engine, and while we have to still see the details from news reports, it is likely to involve manufacturing of the GE F414 engine in India and a gradual transfer of fairly substantive technology from GE to HAL. So in that sense, this would mark a first in the relationship as far as defense technology transfer is concerned.
Stay with me for a moment, ma'am, and let's take this forward point by point, and especially since we talk about defense and high-tech trade and space, it's being seen as a mega boost to India-America ties. US and India announced a series of agreements. They are to announce a series of agreements in space, in defense and technology during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit and his interaction with US President Joe Biden. India and the US are to sign the Artemis Accord on space exploration. So NASA and ISRO are developing a strategic framework for human spaceflight cooperation. India is to join the Artemis Accord countries on civil space exploration. NASA and ISRO have agreed to a joint mission to the International Space Station next year, 2024. So there are also big bang business deals on the cards after PM Narendra Modi is meeting a series of CEOs. Big story on India today. US is to partner with India to build the semiconductor ecosystem that promotes, and this is very important, supply chain diversification. Micron Technology is to set up semiconductor facility in India. Training programs for 60,000 engineers is on the cards. New implementation on whether it's artificial intelligence or quantum technologies is to be set up. The two countries are also working together both on 5G and 6G technologies, including open radio access network systems. And for more on this, I want to bring into this conversation Group Captain Augustine Vinod. Group Captain Vinod, when you look at some of the conversations that are taking place, since Ambassador Meera Shankar mentioned the GE 414 engines for LCA Mark II and perhaps AMCA, GE has just made an announcement on the MOU with HAL. What does this mean for the Indian Air Force? What does this mean for India?
It's a big deal because of the spin-off technologies that come with it, Gaurav, and we have discussed in your program earlier, and I believe it has sort of become, widely watched, and I got called from all and sundry on that program which we did with you. There's a single crystal turbine blade. It's a very difficult technology, Gaurav, to come by. Powder metallurgy disc, again a difficult technology to come by. So these non-polluting combustion chambers. So in an engine has got multiple small parts that makes this particular technology very hard to combine. And we know for fact we tried it with Kaveri engine, and I'm very sorry to say I haven't reached very much of, not made very much of headway in Kaveri. And GE has been making not only the military engines like F404, 414, it is also making turbines for T700 turboshaft for Apache 8901. And there's another wonderful engine technology. Hopefully, they will share it with us. It's called an XA100, an active cycle engine. In commercial, you've traveled enough in Indigo, Air Asia, and whichever.
But
CFM
what I want to understand is, it's an MOU. It's an MOU. It's an MOU at this stage. It's for co-production.
I know. It is.
So
it'll get announced.
Correct. So from an MOU to the actual production in India for IAF, should there be defined timelines?
Oh, no, I would put it the other way. Because of the inability to cater to the requirement that GE is getting on all its engine, it has to open up its production base elsewhere and in a country which is a reliable partner and where the production cost is going to be low. It cannot be China. It has to be India because of the demographic dividend that we enjoy in terms of English-speaking population, intelligent population, and young population. So there is no third. I mean, other than China and India, I don't think there is a third option where GE can go and set up shop. To me, it is a win-win not only for us, but also for GE to set up shop here because it is going to be cheaper to produce and easier to export. And we are going to facilitate and giving them a red carpet welcome for making it here.
Okay.
So,
Ambassador Meera Shankar, do you also look at it? Do you also look at it in this way, that this is a time that America needs us as much because of the demographic dividend in India, the markets in India, and the fact that these are two very powerful democracies?
Look, I would say that there is a mutuality of interest and an increasing convergence of strategic interests in the Indo-Pacific region. So I don't want to go into who needs who more. After all, we are a large market and promising to be, to grow at a fast pace. And of course, there are shared strategic convergences. But at the same time, India needs the US market because they are our largest trading partner, a country with which we have a small trade surplus, very few countries with which we have a trade surplus, say, for instance, China. I mean, we have a huge trade deficit, which is actually destroying our small and medium scale industries. Now, with the US, on the other hand, our entire IT, biotechnology, high-tech sector has grown on the basis of linkages with the US economy. And today also, about 60 to 70% of our software and IT service exports are to the US market. So I think we should also be aware of the fact that the US is an important partner for us, not just in the field of defense, but also if we want our economy to grow, particularly in high technology sectors, and that this is going to be a mutually beneficial relationship driven by both converging strategic interests and democratic values.
Interesting you should say that, and stay with me on this as we talk about one part optics, the second part, the substantive relationship, and how is that being taken forward? Is that truly transformational and no longer transactional? So Prime Minister Narendra Modi was a special invitee, a special guest of honor at the White House, and there was a private dinner at the White House for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. When we talk about this private dinner, as Ambassador Meera Shankar was also telling us that there was the Prime Minister, there was the American President, there was the US First Lady, the two national security advisors, Jake Sullivan from the American side, Ajit Doval from the Indian side. There were some others. The very elaborate gift exchanges that also took place. And it was India's culture, in a way, you know, the idol of Lord Ganesh, coconut, the Das Dhanam, the Mahadan when you turn 80. Ambassador Meera Shankar, how are these gifts decided? What's the messaging in your view?
I think it's personal to each prime minister or president how they select their gifts. But obviously, it's always both, keeps in mind both the personal interests of the guest to whom you are giving the gift, as well as the national symbolism that may be attached to it. So I think both these aspects are kept in mind. But of course, the choice of gift is really reflects the choice of the individual leader.
Okay, and we've got news that's just coming in. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has tweeted ahead of the Biden-Modi bilateral. Prime Minister Narendra Modi put out a tweet thanking the US President Joe Biden and the US First Lady Dr. Jill Biden for their hospitality. The Prime Minister was a personal guest of the US President and the First Lady, and as Ambassador Shankar was also pointing out that they actually made the effort of making it personal for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The kind of food, the Shri Ann. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been emphasizing on the Shri Ann millets, the superfood. 2023 is the year of the superfood, and there is a millet dish, a fully vegetarian meal. The Prime Minister has also actually put out a video saying thank you for your hospitality, President of the United States Joe Biden and the First Lady of the United States Dr. Jill Biden. I want to once again bring in Ambassador Meera Shankar on the effort in that personal dinner and the eye for detail in the state dinner and the press preview that was done. Ambassador Meera Shankar, how do you look at that?
I think the US is signaling, they're pulling out all the stops in terms of protocol, in terms of personal gestures. And so I think really the signaling is that they consider this a very important relationship and they consider this a very important visit. And I think that the important thing is that irrespective of the parties in power in either country, this relationship, I think, is going to be of strategic significance to both countries going forward.
Okay, stay with me, ma'am, as we talk about these gifts. We've talked about some of it in the past. I want to show you this report, which has details of the gifts that Prime Minister Narendra Modi had for the US President and the First Lady, and the gifts that they presented to the Prime Minister of India.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi chose traditional Hindu culture of Das Dhanam for an octogenarian who has witnessed 1,000 full moons as his gift concept for the US President Joe Biden. In a sandalwood box handcrafted by a master craftsman from Jaipur, 10 different objects of Das Dhanam were aesthetically placed. The sandalwood for the box was sourced from Mysore and had intricately carved flora and fauna patterns. For the Das Dhanam, Bhudanam or land donation is an important gift. Sandalwood was offered in place of Bhutan. In fact, each item of this gift box is handcrafted from different parts of India. There was a silver idol of Ganesha, the Hindu deity considered as the destroyer of obstacles and the one who is worshipped first among all gods. It's handcrafted by a family of 5th generation silversmiths of Kolkata. A diya or oil lamp occupies a sacred space in every Hindu household. The silver diya in the box has also been handcrafted by artisans from the family of 5th generation silversmiths in Kolkata. A delicately handcrafted silver coconut by the skilled artisans of West Bengal was offered in place of a cow for Godan. Til or white sesame seeds sourced from Tamil Nadu offered for Tildan. Handcrafted in Rajasthan, this 24-carat pure and hallmarked gold coin is offered as Hiranyadan or donation of gold. Ghee or clarified butter sourced from Punjab is offered for Achiyadan. A hand-woven textured tushar silk cloth sourced from Jharkhand symbolized Vastradan. Long-grained rice sourced from Uttarakhand are offered for Dhanyadan or donation of food grains. As Gurdan, jaggery sourced from Maharashtra was offered. A 99.5% pure and hallmarked silver coin, aesthetically crafted by Rajasthan artisans, was offered as Ropyadan or donation of silver. Lavan or salt from Gujarat made for Lavandan or donation of salt. All these gift items were placed on the copper plate or the Tamrapatra sourced from Uttar Pradesh. A shloka has been inscribed on it. In ancient times, Tamrapatra was widely used as a medium for writing and record keeping. Other than this, the Prime Minister also gifted President Biden a copy of the first edition print of the 10 principal Upanishads published by Faber and Faber Limited of London and printed at the University Press, Glasgow. It was one of the final works of W.B. Yeats. For the First Lady of the United States of America, the Indian Prime Minister had a lab-grown 7.5-carat green diamond as a gift procured from Gujarat's Surat. The diamond reflects earth-mined diamonds' chemical and optical properties. It is also eco-friendly as eco-diversified resources like solar and wind power were used in its making. It is a beacon of responsible luxury that symbolizes India's 75 years of freedom and sustainable international relations.
ખાલી સુરત માટે નહીં, આ આખા દેશ માટે બહુ ગર્વની વાત છે. આત્મનિર્ભરથી બનેલો હીરો કહેવાય.
Floaters was visibly impressed by it. The diamond was presented in a papier-mâché box known as Kare Kalamdini. Kashmir's exquisite papier-mâché reflects skilled artisans' hand-painted elaborate designs on paper pulp. The first couple of the United States gifted Indian Prime Minister a handmade antique American book galley from the early 20th century as the official gift, along with a vintage American camera, accompanied by an archival facsimile print of George Eastman's patent of first Kodak camera, a hardcover book on American wildlife photography, and a signed first edition copy of collected poems of Robert Frost. Bureau Report, India Today.
And the White House has described India as a world play. There's a statement from John Kirby saying India is the net exporter of security and stability. The dialogue is future focused between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Joe Biden. Before I bring in Group Captain Vinod, Ambassador Meera Shankar, explain these statements being made by the United States. India is a world play, net exporter of security and stability.
Well, I think it reflects what they call an increasingly global strategic partnership. That is, it is not limited to the bilateral, but also looks at how the two countries can work together to meet global challenges, stabilize the global economy, fight the challenge of climate change, deal with pandemics, and also provide stability and peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region.
There are some reports, Group Captain Vinod, that seem to indicate how much of the technology, if we were to talk about the GE414 engines, are we in a position to absorb at this stage? So will it initially just be, if at all, the purchase of the GE414 engines and produced by General Electric in India? How does this translate into actual technology coming to India?
It's a great question, Gaurav, and that is where the challenge lies, and that is actually going to be the nightmare. Yes, HAL has gone ahead and signed the MOU, but they have to really work hard now to absorb this technology. A, B, like you rightly said, initially it is going to be GE setting up shops here and manufacturing ex-India for Indian as well as global market. What kind of technology and how much of technology will they transfer to India remains to be seen. But I don't think critical technology is something GE would be willing to share with any other American company, let alone Indian company. So that is certain critical turbine making technology, etc., will be a close guarded secret, which will be put inside probably a underground well of GE and guarded till with their lives. So that is something which we cannot expect from GE to come into India. So how much will come in, remains to be seen. Yes,
but with the Predators,
HAL needs to burn their midnight oil to absorb whatever is being put on the table.
Because I don't want to rain on HAL's parade, but I do want to ask that question. Even the Rafale deal, which was being negotiated by the earlier government, was stuck because who would sign off on the Rafale aircraft made in India? How many hours would it take to manufacture those engines, those aircraft in India? Because there was no forward movement on that for over a year, that deal was stuck. And then a new deal had to be negotiated by the Narendra Modi government. Is there an apprehension that even though all the MOUs happen, that translation on ground may just get stuck again?
See, HAL has to do some kind of a back-end internal dealing with other companies like Maruti does in India. So that is on the cards. I mean, I have no doubt that it will follow through. Tata Advanced Systems is there. I've been there. They're doing a brilliant job, and Adani Industries are doing a brilliant job. So likewise, we have many civil and private players in this market who have certain technology capability. So even they need to absorb. Of course, the conduit certainly will be HAL because it is G to G, not to G to any other private players. So that also, like I said, Gaurav, to execute
the devil would actually lie in the detail.
A panel has to sit down. Yeah.
Absolutely.
A panel has to sit and they have to really burn the midnight oil. They should not bite more than what they can chew, is my professional advice to it.
God forbid it may get stuck like the Rafale deal earlier. And considering we were reporting on that right from the early 2000s, during the second leg of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's US visit, the Prime Minister has met top tech czars in Washington, D.C. He's had a series of discussions with them, again seeking investment in India, seeking technology in India, seeking collaborations to align the move forward, whether US companies or Indian companies. We bring you more in this report.
Intimate dinner. Key bilateral meet. Technological collaborations. And big-ticket tech talks. Prime Minister Modi's visit to the US is high on substance. A visit that offers an opportunity to the United States to strengthen its economic and security cooperation with India. Ahead of the intimate dinner with US President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden, Modi met leading tech czars in Washington, D.C. In a series of high-profile back-to-back meetings, Prime Minister Modi met Gary E. Dickerson, the president and CEO of semiconductor giant Applied Materials, inviting his company to boost the chip-making ecosystem in India.
We will be announcing soon a new innovation center in India. With Applied Materials, we'll also bring global partners into this new innovation center. And this innovation center will really be focused on innovation in the equipment. And we have very high confidence that working together with India, we can create a tremendous success.
Amid jet engine deal buzz, PM Modi met the chairman and CEO of General Electric, H. Lawrence Culp Jr. GE is likely to sign a pact with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited to manufacture jet engines in India. Prime Minister Modi also met Sanjay Mehrotra, the president and CEO of American chipmaker Micron Technology. During the meeting, Modi invited Micron Technology to manufacture semiconductors in India.
Had an excellent meeting with Prime Minister Modi. Very impressed with the vision that he has for India and the advances that India is making. We discussed a wide range of topics, and we really look forward to greater opportunities in India.
Modi had earlier met Tesla chief and Twitter owner Elon Musk, who described himself as a Modi fan and expressed willing to invest in India.
He really wants to do the right thing for India. He wants to be open, he wants to be supportive of new companies, and obviously, but at the same time, make sure it accrues to India's advantage, which is, obviously, that's the job. I'm saying I am a fan of Modi, so I have to say that.
Modi's active wooing of global businesses of the future can potentially redefine business ties with the US. With Geeta Mohan and Rahul Kanwal in Washington, D.C., Bureau Report, India Today.
Ambassador Shankar, one of the areas is education, key focus areas. How does that, how will that be taken forward? There is some talk that American universities, more visas for Indian students, or American professors come to India to teach. How does that, translate into action on ground, ma'am?
Well, first of all, we have the second largest number of foreign students in the US are Indians already. And if you visit American universities, there are certain departments which are completely dominated by Indian Americans, such as mathematics, engineering, management, economics. These departments, everywhere I would go, I would find the dean of Indian origin, I would find professors of Indian origin. So there is already now considerable familiarity, with Indians, and India has been seeking also greater collaboration in India. And we've been, changing some of our policies to make this easier for foreign universities to set up in India or to collaborate with Indian partners. Now, there are many Indian universities already offering joint degrees. So a student can study here and then take a semester in the US, and those credits actually count towards his degree here. Or you could have more American professors coming, to teach short-term, a semester or so in India. I mean, there are many possibilities in the education space. But I think the other thing I would really point out beyond defense is this whole initiative on critical and emerging technology, which was launched by the two leaders, and then an MOU was signed by the NSAs, who are directly looking after this initiative. And this aims to bring together not only businesses, but also universities, research institutions, and academia on both sides in frontier areas of technology, including semiconductors, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, telecommunications, and space. So you have some very interesting possibilities which have been set in motion. The question is, will it lead to concrete collaboration?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was the question I was coming to. And stay with me, Ambassador Shankar. I want to quickly cut across to Washington, D.C., where our Foreign Affairs Editor, Geeta Mohan, now joins us. Geeta, we've been hearing of a number of MOUs. How much of that is translating and are we working at timelines into action and collaboration on ground? So take us through the big day today.
Well, Gaurav, was difficult to hear you. Just kidding. Was a little difficult to catch your question. But if you're talking about the deals, let me first begin with where I am. You can see the Indian media contingent waiting in queue. We've been taken into a holding area, kind of a space right here, before we are taken to the area where, or the place where the press statements will be taking place. Behind me is the White House after a security drill. Comprehensive security drill, Gaurav. We've all come inside and now waiting to be taken in, and then in some time from now you'll see that the official state visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi will begin. There are going to be people from the Indian community who are going to come here in the South Lawns to welcome Prime Minister Modi when the 21-gun salute takes place. Having said that, that's the optics, the show. Let's talk about substance that you were talking about, the deals that are going to be signed or announced. If I'm not wrong, you were talking about the Artemis Accord. It is a very important accord. It is one where we are talking about space collaboration in the space sector, and India becoming a part of the Artemis Accord is going to be important because being a part of the International Space Station or flying, going to the International Space Station by 2024 is what the White House statement read, and that certainly is going to be significant for India. We were talking to Elon Musk after his meeting with the Indian Premier, and he himself said that a lot of the focus in terms of conversations were on collaborating in the space sector. There is going to be some collaboration, not just G2G, we're looking at B2G as well, which means SpaceX collaborating with India. We do not know what the details and the niceties of that collaboration are going to look like. But the biggest news over here in the space sector is Artemis. The other very important deal that we're looking at, or deals, so to say, Gaurav, that we are expecting to be announced today is from the defense sector. The defense cooperation is complete. It has come a full circle because for the longest, Gaurav, and you have been reporting on it through and through, technology transfer was always a concern for India. It's all right to buy off the shelf, but it is not long lasting. If India and the United States of America want a long lasting relationship, technology transfer is basic and makes for trusted partners between the two countries. It's the trust factor that you see now that has increased manifold and has come to a level where there will be a complete technology transfer. What we are given to understand is that the GE F414 jet engine deal will be announced. You've been reporting on the Predator drones. We do not know whether if the announcement is going to take place, but that's what is expected. Again, a very important deal, but look at it from America's perspective rather than just from India, because India is looking.
Yeah. Oops. So Geeta is at the security entrance at the White House. where press statements would be made. Would questions be taken and answered? Well, there is some conversation. There would be questions. These, of course, are images from earlier today and yesterday in Washington, D.C. But the day it promises to be huge in every aspect. But one question, again, that's being asked very extensively, Ambassador Shankar, is about visas, the backlog. Is that likely to be addressed, and was there merit in the contention that because India had taken an independent foreign policy on the Russia-Ukraine war, those visas were an issue, and is that likely to be sorted out?
Down there, where that man is going right now. You can just wait there.
Geeta, can you hear me? Geeta, the visa issue, the delay in visas
Gaurav,
in some instances over a year. Go on. Yes.
Yes. Quickly, just letting you know that we were being briefed from the holding area. Now we're being taken to the main area. So just walking up to that place, waiting for an escort. Nothing over here moves without being escorted officially. So that's happening right now. Coming back to the defense cooperation, if that was your question, Gaurav, if you could confirm.
Defense cooperation and visas, the year-long backlog in clearance of visas, is that likely to be sorted out?
Absolutely. A very important aspect would be the backlogs when it comes to visa. But there are two aspects, Gaurav, on visas and immigration. One is the visa backlog itself. The other is America's immigration policy. What we're given to understand is that it's the latter where there has been an important announcement. When they say increase in visas, it's the immigration policy towards India that seems to be shifting to India's advantage. The backlog is a concern that has been for a while since the COVID-19 pandemic. The consulates in India, embassy in New Delhi have been trying to smoothen the process out and have been trying to ensure that as many number of visas as they can issue should be issued in a year. They've made record numbers, but it still is not enough. That's one aspect. But like I said, the other aspect, Gaurav, is certainly to do with the immigration policy. A decision on how India's skilled labor is just the best. India's technology and software professionals are just the best. And there is a huge paucity when it comes to software engineers, professionals, and a need over here in the United States of America. And that need and that gap India has been pushing that should be filled by Indians. So an increase in visas for Indians is a very positive step towards that. But yes, don't expect the delays in visas to smoothen out or to ease out immediately just because the leaders met. It still is going to take a long time. Why do I say that? Is because visa services in America are not like in India that are done and the expenses borne by the government. Over here, it is
Geeta, stay with me. I also want to cut across and bring in our news director, Rahul Kanwal, for more on this. Rahul, big day today. That will signify this relationship is not transactional. It's transformational, Rahul.
Gaurav, we're finally at the south lawns of the White House. We've been waiting a long time to get in, but here we are. Preparations on. I can just turn our camera around. Kirpal, do you want to dismount that camera from the tripod and just show our viewers there are a lot of Indians who've come here. Just turn the camera around. Who've come here to be a part of this celebration. So we'll just try and show you some of the scenes here at the White House South Lawns as we are about an hour and a half away from Prime Minister Narendra Modi coming to the White House. So these are, and this is the the cultural dimension of what is at play, Gaurav, because it's not just the leaders meeting, but they've invited a lot of people, and a lot of them are just regular folks who have got a ticket to come in. It's a highly sought after ticket, not quite as sought after as the state dinner, which is really very, very special and hugely sought after. But this is just one notch, so those who couldn't be at the state dinner, they're all here now. A lot of people-to-people ties, festivity, pomp, show, celebration. This is really a celebration of ties between India and the United States, and the chants of Modi, with no offense, no chants of Biden, anything like that, which is fine. These are obviously a highly partisan, charged up, pro-Modi, pro-India crowd, but they're here and a lot of people are coming in. So let me just try and show you, and give you a sense of how things are set up over here. You would have seen Rashtrapati Bhavan before this. It's a bit like that, Gaurav. On Republic Day or Independence Day, everybody lined up. I suppose that some of them will get an opportunity to see the leaders. Prime Minister Modi expected to be here at 10 a.m. this morning, and just before that, the only slight bummer is that it continues to rain. That it isn't stopping to rain. Mercifully, it's not like a massive downpour, because that would be just terrible. But it is inclement weather. It continues to rain, and we've already seen, Gaurav, some very significant advancements on the GE 414 weapon purchase. You were talking about whether this is a transactional relationship or a transformative relationship. The fact is that it's a bit of both. India isn't an alliance partner, isn't part of any formal treaty with the United States, and yet these kind of concessions. You've tracked, Gaurav, the light combat aircraft project for decades, and we've struggled with the Kaveri jet engines to be able to get a little bit of help from the United States, get high-end fighter jet engine technology transferred to Hindustan Aeronautics. That's a significant achievement, because these are the kind of high-end technologies you don't expect countries to part very easily. That shows the transformative nature of Indo-US ties, where such special allowances are being made at this moment for the Indian government and for the people of India. I just hope, Gaurav, that the Hindustan Aeronautics lot in Bengaluru are able to use that technology, because remember, one of the reasons why Rafale fighter jets the company wasn't very enthused about tying up with HAL is because they thought that simply wouldn't be able to do a good enough job. They've had challenges in the past. Hopefully, they'll do a good job and ensure that what they're being given, they're able to use and build on, and help us, build the same jet engines in India, and then absorb that technology to be able to move ahead into the next generations of technology, Gaurav.
And Rahul, what's the buzz in Washington, D.C.? The Indian-American crowd we see behind you, they're extremely excited. What about the American media? What about the think tankers? What about thought leaders in the United States of America? And you've interacted with several of them in the past 48 hours, Rahul.
Gaurav, so it's mixed, So if you've seen, say, Bloomberg and some of the other commentary, they're asking all kinds of questions about why special allowances are being made for India, given the fact that, India, they claim, is an unreliable partner and can't really be expected to come to America's side in case there's ever a confrontation with China, for example, or at least that's the assessment in some think tanks. We've also seen the likes of Ashley Tellis, who's followed the India-US relationship for many decades. He's raised questions as well about these allowances being made to India, telling the current administration in DC that don't count on India to come to your aid if you're in trouble. So there have been some voices of skepticism, but by and large, amongst the academics, the think tankers, a very realistic sense of China being the real challenge, the growing nexus between China and Russia being a much bigger problem, and therefore they realize this is a relationship where you need to work and keep building despite the differences that these countries have at this moment, Gaurav.
Isn't that what India and America are trying to do? Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Joe Biden, the private dinner yesterday, that was in a way America literally laying out the red carpet. US President Joe Biden and the First Lady laying out the red carpet for Prime Minister Narendra Modi with an all-vegetarian meal in saffron color. Tonight's dinner, every table having a different theme, Rahul.
Oh yeah, that's pretty amazing, Gaurav. The fact that there's been so much attention to detailing. I was seeing comments made by the Social Secretary of the Biden administration at the White House. The level of detailing on every flower arrangement, food. I mean, there's even a Patel wines. I mean, I'd never heard of Patel wines before this, but it's interesting. At Napa Valley in California, there's a Patel wines, and there'll be Patel wine served. There's millet being served. So they're keeping a very open ear to the conversation back home and the Prime Minister's effort to try and push millets, and that's also a part of how they're trying to ensure that there is a lot of special detailing and attention being paid to some of the finer aspects of what will be at play all through the day today. These are the scenes here from the White House. There's some lovely peppy music playing. The weather not so lovely and peppy, but the spirits of those who gathered here, members of the Indian American community, they are very, very charged up. Very, very charged up to be here. They've been queuing up from early in the morning. And this is really one of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's big strengths, that he has so much rousing support from the Indian American community, and they're such big cheerleaders and ambassadors, brand ambassadors for the Prime Minister, brand ambassadors for the India story. They carry India's message, they carry the Prime Minister's message far and wide, and really are one of the biggest assets of the India-America relationship at this moment.
Reporting for us live from the White House. Good evening, viewers. You're watching India Today. We're getting you a live coverage from outside the White House, where moments from now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected for a grand welcome on the lawns of the White House. We already saw, of course, their intimate dinner with the Bidens last night, from which there were so many images that came to the fore, essentially setting the stage, setting the ground for this event. And this is going to be the headliner. Rahul, if you can hear me, this is Akshata here. Good morning. This is going to be the headliner for all of, the meat of what's the takeaway of this visit. That's going to happen over the next few hours after the White House welcome with the bilaterals.
Well, there is a ceremonial welcome that's followed then by bilateral talks and a joint statement later, a press conference, and then the joint address to the US Congress. So it's a mix really of form and substance. This is the form, the spectacle, the flags of India, the flags of the United States, Indian Americans waving, cheering. Let's walk across and show you some of these scenes. They're happy, they're jubilant. They're just, look at how happy and excited these faces are. Very successful Indian Americans, the most influential community of expatriates here in the United States, a key pillar of strength. Many of them dressed in Indian colors, Indian outfits, and obviously very excited to be here on the south lawns of the White House. Then there is, the substance, which is, for example, the GE 414 deal, India joining the Artemis program, and quite a few of those big announcements, which really show how a lot of effort is being made to ensure that there are big, significant, genuine, tangible takeaways, and a message being sent from here to Beijing about the growing proximity between Delhi and DC.
And As always, the Indian diaspora not disappointing, turning up in large numbers there. I'm sure that, in the White House, the Americans, Biden, they've never seen this kind of a reception for a world leader before. And that's unique to really India, to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. You can see all of them with flags of the tricolour, chanting along, chanting Modi, Modi. We're going to continue getting you all of that energy, all of that action from outside the White House. For the moment, thanks very much, Rahul, for joining us live.
Powered by Voltas Pure Air 6-stage adjustable AC. Ajio Big Bold Sale.
Day before mega opposition meet in Patna, opposition disunity out in the open. AAP's open threat to Congress over ordinance.
इससे बड़ा तो कोई मुद्दा हो नहीं सकता इस वक्त डेमोक्रेसी को बचाने के लिए और कल की मीटिंग में इस पे एक सार्थक चर्चा होगी.
Congress brushes off AAP arm twisting.
ये नेताओं की, राजनीतिज्ञों की और उन लोगों की जिनको देश की चिंता है उसकी मीटिंग है पटना में. सौदेबाजों की मीटिंग नहीं है.
Unity is still work in progress for opposition. Top focus on 6 p.m. Prime with Akshita Nandagopal.
Good evening. You're watching 6 p.m. Prime here on India Today. I'm Akshita Nandagopal. We're going to be talking about the opposition meet in just a bit from now, but we want to focus on what's happening outside the White House, where you can see huge crowds have gathered. The Indian diaspora is there in large numbers cheering on as Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected there in just about 30 minutes from now. I want to hand this over to Rahul Kaval, our news director, who's out there on the ground. Rahul, sea of supporters that I see all across the White House. I don't think the White House or the Bidens would have ever seen this kind of a welcome for a world leader before. We'll reconnect with Rahul in just a bit. We're just connecting with him. He's outside the White House getting us these live images. And you can hear the chants of Modi, Modi. Now, in about 1.5 hours, 90 minutes, you're going to be seeing Prime Minister Modi arriving there. And then there's going to be the traditional official welcome at the White House. There'll be a 21-gun salute. There are select dignitaries who've been chosen to be a part of this particular meeting, both from the Indian diaspora and Americans who will be there. Will get a chance to interact with both Prime Minister Modi and US President Biden. Now, after that is going to be where all of the hard business is taken care of. You're going to be seeing the bilateral that happens between Prime Minister Modi and President Biden. It'll be a one-on-one meeting. Deals will be discussed. Remember that a lot of the details of what's really going to happen, of the signing of the deals, including the jet deal. Now, what we're hearing is it's already been done. The formalities will take place in a few hours from now. Rahul Kaval is with us. Rahul, take it away. Show us the energy out there. Unprecedented to see these kind of crowds outside the White House chanting Modi, Modi.
We're at the south lawns of the White House in Washington, D.C. That's where Prime Minister Narendra Modi and American President Joe Biden will be in a short while from now. And right behind us, highly enthusiastic members of the Indian American community. And they've been here since early in the morning, wanting to catch a glimpse of the Prime Minister, be a part of this exciting issue. टिकट कैसे मिली टिकट के लिए क्या seeing the level of enthusiasm over here, and what we're being told is that this whole place has been set up in a way that the two leaders will walk past. So that's their big draw, that they'll have the leaders walking past at some point in time, which is one of the reasons why these guys are so excited to be over here. Anyway, this is also one of the great strengths of this India-US relationship. This kind of enthusiastic support. And I'm sure when President Biden is here, he would be a bit envious, as was Donald Trump before him, of the kind of support and popularity that the Indian Prime Minister enjoys. This is cult following, ordinarily seen by a Hollywood star or maybe a rock star, not typically seen by politicians, and almost certainly not seen by politicians in their 10th year in office. So in that context, the fact that the fact that the Prime Minister's popularity still continues to remain sky high is quite interesting. Some of the deals that have been announced so far, have added a lot of meat and substance to the conversation as well. So it's not just the song and the dance, the flags being waved and people cheering. They're also very serious, genuine takeaways that are on the table from this relationship. Hello, good morning. Where are you guys? Maryland. Are you here for President Biden or for...
We came from Maryland, we came from India, Uttarakhand. Yes, sir. We've been here for 6 years.
You come from Texas? Yes. That's a far distance away. So, some of these people who've come have obviously taken out a lot of time, made a lot of effort to be here at the White House this morning, because coming in from Texas, that's not easy. It's not like really nearby. Let me see if we can go up and give you a bit of an aerial peek of what's happening here. It's a lovely site where we're just building up to. So I'm going to get my camera person Kirpal Singh to move the camera around and we try and show you some of the sites here at the White House. This is where we came from. So these are the south lawns of the White House, which are now packed with people. On the rostrum, the podium, is where Prime Minister Modi will be, along with the American president. And after this, they get into bilateral talks. There will be a joint session. There will be an address to the joint session of Parliament, which will happen this afternoon. And that would be interesting as well to see what the Prime Minister sees. I'm told by his team that he's going to be speaking in English. So he'll be speaking in English during the joint session. And after that is that big state dinner. So these people who are here are not likely invited to that state dinner. That's going to be a different crowd. People coming literally from far distances to be at that state dinner.
Oh, just a quick question before I bring in Geeta also, which is, you were telling us and detailing out the schedule and the itinerary for us. Is there going to be a press conference? There are a lot of questions on that.
No, there will most certainly be a press conference. Okay. That press conference is likely this afternoon, and there'll be questions which will be asked of the Prime Minister, some to the American President. This is just standard form as far as interactions with the American President are concerned. The Indian Prime Minister, of course, doesn't do press conferences, hasn't been doing them for a very long time, but he will be taking questions. It will be very interesting to see what kind of questions get thrown his way, what kind of questions come the way of the American President, and that again would be one of the highlights of the day's proceedings. Hello, hi. How did you get tickets to come? How did you get tickets to come? So So they've come in from different parts of the United States to be here at this special moment, and really a celebration of the ties between the people of India and the people of the United States, and these American Indians, Indian Americans, big brand ambassadors in that regard. Let's take you back to the studio.
All right, Rahul, I'm going to keep coming across to you. I want to quickly also bring in Geeta Mohan on this. Geeta, you know, the Indian diaspora, as always, not disappointing. They've turned up in large numbers, but let's also focus on what's expected after this. When the Prime Minister turns up there at the White House, the formal welcome ceremony, the official welcome, will now be, in fact, doled out to him in the White House lawn. So what's expected in that ceremony?
Well, if I got your question correctly, there is a lot of disturbance when it comes to the audio. What is expected here at the White House after the talks is what you're asking?
Okay, we're having a bit of a problem there with Geeta's connection. I'll just reconnect with her. She's joining us from another vantage point. Rahul, if I can take that question across to you. What is the official welcome ceremony and their event in the White House lawns really going to look like?
So there'll be a ceremonial welcome which will include a 21-gun salute. So that's the most substance piece, that's the more form part of the event today, and therefore, as the Foreign Secretary said during his press conference, a mix of form and substance. The music, the people, that's just the warmth of the ties, but the jet engines, the Predator drones, space technology collaboration, building on ISET. ISET is the Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technologies. That's very significant because so far, the very highest end of technological prowess, which India was not really being provided, those kind of emerging and critical technologies are now being made available to India, and conversations have started, whether it is in terms of semiconductors, chip design, which is really the present and the future of how the tech stack across the world shapes up. And that, and those also technologies which are now being denied to China, or at least efforts being made to put curbs on the availability of that technology to China. So those are some of the things that India and the United States will be discussing. Let's see if we can walk back and allow you to, Sam, get a flavor of the colors of the South Lawns in Washington, D.C. This morning at the White House, where the huge amount of interest amongst the people who've gathered here this morning. And I'm going to just see if I can find Geeta. She's in one corner as well, and you were trying to speak to her and that line went down. So let me just see if I can in some time try and spot her. But remember, the lawns are getting more and more full as we are counting down now to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the American President coming here. Remember, the interesting thing is that the manner in which the whole calendar is packed and set up, there's a fine art there. You know, the amount of things that they're being able to pack in, the kind of meetings with politicians, think tankers, people in the health sector, that's not very easy to make happen on a very, very tight timeline and a very condensed schedule. It's taken months of planning on the part of the people working with the Prime Minister's team, amongst the people who are here in Washington, D.C. as part of our embassy over there, to just bring together a program which moves with the kind of intensity that this program has. And, you know, we've heard Micron announce that they'll be investing $850 million in India for semiconductor chip design. That's a very big announcement. Remember, the likes of Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Ashwani Vaishnav have been talking about this, ministers, about, you know, it's not just that they've announced a scheme for semiconductors, but also to see that talk translate into action. And we've seen with Micron making this announcement, that's a very, very significant announcement that's happened. The chief executive of Micron met with Prime Minister Modi yesterday when he came into Washington, D.C., and soon after this announcement's been made.
Very true. You know, you made a mention, Rahul, of the Micron deal, the semiconductor plant that could perhaps be set up in Gujarat, in the south of India as well. You see many such semiconductor plants that have already been set up. So that is also a clear message that's being sent across to China that India is building on its base of a semiconductor hub. I just want to also bring in Gaurav Sawant on this. Gaurav, what really to you is the takeaway from all the deals that have been inked so far, whether we talk about the jet engine deal or the fact that Micron has spoken about this massive investment in India?
This is India-America relationship being taken all together to a new level. You know, Rahul, Geeta and I have been tracking India-America relationship right from the Pokhran tests when sanctions were put on India, to the Kargil war, to subsequently when Clinton-Vajpayee administration, they started moving together towards what was then called NSSP, or the next step in strategic partnership, to the 2005 Indo-US civil nuclear deal, to America and India then really coming close together 2014 to 23, then taking it all together on a different plane. So, you know, this is unbelievable. That time, you couldn't think of America talking about making fighter jet engines in India. So that's huge. Semiconductors to be made in India. That's huge. Predator drones to be sold to India. That's huge. Now we just need to see timelines of MOUs being actioned on ground.
And hopefully we'll get clarity on that in a few hours from now when the official bilateral, the sit-down meet actually happens. Geeta Mohan is live with us. Geeta, I hope we've been able to establish the connection with you. I can see that there's a lot of crowd, that there's a lot of Modi chants in the air. So obviously it's very hard for our reporters to hear us amid all of that noise and that celebration. But I also want to talk about, you know, we've spoken of the bilaterals, the White House welcome. What comes later on tonight for us, Geeta, and later in the day for you is the address by the Prime Minister to the US Congress, the second time that he's going to be doing that, and that too will be keenly watched.
Well, absolutely, because it's the speech that is going to be significant. There were some people we were talking to late last night, and when asked about what the content of the speech is going to be, see, America has been concerned about the war. Even at the G20 meeting and the summit level meeting in Indonesia, it was Prime Minister Narendra Modi who said this is not an era of war. And there could be some significant statement here at the joint meeting of the Congress as well, where certain concerns of America in terms of why India stands and what of India's stance could also be mentioned. But India is playing a very important role in how to bring about unity in a world that now seems absolutely polarized. Before I toss back to you, let me just show you what we were talking about just a while ago. Those are visuals. If you can see right behind the people over here who are waving are the Indian and American flags, and we have the American forces who are holding up those flags. This is in preparation for the Guard of Honor that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be receiving. These are the very same men who will be carrying these flags and will walk across to the lawns over here where the Guard of Honor would be received by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. A very significant moment because only the third time we are looking at a state visit and an important one. But yes, after the bilateral meetings, if you look at the substance of the relationship and the visit, there is much more to the relationship than just the bilateral conversations and the agreements, because the agreements take place even when an official and a working visit takes place. And we've been here at the White House every time Prime Minister Narendra Modi has come visiting, and it just is different this time because his packed schedule includes joint meeting, addressing the joint meeting of the Congress, and then the state banquet in the evening, which again is only accorded to those guests or delegation who arrive for a state visit. The joint meeting of the Congress is going to be interesting. While there are many congressmen and lawmakers who've already written, who've already put out video statements welcoming Prime Minister Modi.
Yeah.
This is a relationship that America wants to invest in. And why so is because India has become important at a time when America faces absolute aggression from Russia when it comes to the Europe war, or for that matter China in the Indo-Pacific and the Taiwan Straits. So for America, India today is more important than how India perceives a multipolar world where America is just another important strategic partner.
Very true. Very true. And I also want to bring in Rahul Kaval on this. Rahul, of all the deals that have been inked, you know, the jet engine deal, you've got the Artemis Accords, joint India-NASA space mission in 2024. What's got you most pumped, most excited?
From Kashmir to here. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Srinivas Tupakari. I'm from Virginia. So we are so excited. People are all over from the US are here. And we are very proud that Modi ji is addressing joint Congress session. He's the third person to do it. It's a proud moment for all of us. Hey!
Hi, Vivek Gaudi from Houston, Texas. After Howdy Modi with 50,000 people, we're here at the White House. Amazing event. Modi ji Zindabad!
Hello, Vivek Chaturvedi from Ohio. I'm from Hindu Action for Hindu Advocacy in the USA. Proud to be here for His Honor Prime Minister Modi. So, thank you.
Hi there. So, we have come all the way from Canada. We are coming from Toronto. My name is Daivat and we are so excited to see him. This is the first state visit of Modi.
Hey, I am from California. We are very proud to be here to visit this welcome ceremony of our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi. Thank you.
We've come all the way from LA. We are so proud, Modi ji. Hey, Modi ji. Right here from Washington, D.C. Welcome, Modi ji. So proud of you. Rahul, you look awesome.
Oh, we are from Philadelphia. We are very honored to be here. Congratulations, Modi ji. Make India more stronger.
Rahul ji, आप तो अच्छे वाले Rahul ji हो. We just want to pass the message from you. Actually, there are a couple of people come over here and make some nonsense thing. Please don't do that. And if they bring 100 people, we bring 10,000 people for Modi ji. Thank you very much.
I'm from Toronto, Canada. We came all the way, drove 10 hours to see Modi ji. It's an honor, the third head of a state to get a state dinner. It's a really big privilege, and it's amazing to be here.
This is Pradeep Singh Singh, and I'm here to witness Modi's historical welcome arrival ceremony. It's a very energetic environment. And
So we are from D.C. and we are here to welcome Modi ji. Thank you so much. Yeah, you look awesome today.
So we all are here from Toronto to welcome Modi ji, and it's an honor. Yeah, we have come from Toronto especially for this event. Thanks to Modi ji.
10-hour drive.
10 hours drive, and we all are here because of that. Thank you so much.
Hello. Yeah, we are coming from Washington D.C. area. We live in Virginia, and we basically from Hyderabad. But now we came to witness the world's oldest and largest democracies get together, Modi and Biden. Thank you very much.
We're proud of Modi.
It's a historic moment for India and America both, because it's the second time he is going to address U.S. Congress.
Modi is the best.
Modi is the best.
Modi hai to mumkin hai. Everything is possible if Modi is here.
We are here, we are from Chicago, and we are going to tell the world that it is a Tina factor. There is no other alternative. Mr. Modi is the world leader.
Thank you so much. No, I was hoping that I get the mic back at some time. But I know you guys are doing a great job. And thank you very much. You guys are doing a great job. I was just wondering if I would ever get the mic back. The golden mic is finally back with us. And I'm also glad that you managed to get a sample of some of the reactions from people, many of them coming from California, Canada. That's a fair distance away to be here at the White House this morning to see Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the American president. They've obviously
felt the passion, they feel the emotion, which is why they made all the effort of coming down here. With this, let me take you back to the studios.
Rahul, thanks for getting us those voices. Many of them excited to meet Prime Minister Modi, many of them excited to meet you as well, Rahul. But it was good to hear all of them speaking out, talking about where they've come from, because it really gives you a sense of the excitement on ground as well. But Rahul, you know, even as we focus on it, these are, by the way, all the Indian diaspora members who are not going to be a part of the event. They've just gathered there to catch a glimpse of the Prime Minister. You've been there several times, Rahul. You've been a part of the Prime Minister's visits previously, reporting on it, covering on it. Is the excitement this time at an all-time high when compared to before? I don't think Rahul can hear me. Let me take that across to Geeta. Geeta, you've covered several of the Prime Minister's visits to the United States. Is this one particularly got the Indian diaspora more pumped, more kicked than the previous ones?
Is that question for me, Akshita?
Yes, Geeta, yes.
Well, it is absolutely different. Unlike any other prime ministerial visit, where we have seen and witnessed a lot of significant conversations, a lot of significant agreements and deals being signed, but none in terms of the color and the optics that you're seeing. The White House and the Biden administration have gone out of their way to show the kind of rousing welcome that the Indian Premier is going to get over here.
Okay, we've lost a connection with Geeta. Rahul is still with us. Rahul, you've been getting us a sense of the mood on ground. So many people who've come there, and as organic as it gets, because from the voices, you got us, many of them of their own will have decided to come there from different parts of America, from Canada as well, to just catch a glimpse of the Prime Minister, unheard of perhaps in American politics.
Well, not entirely unheard of. I mean, Barack Obama was massively popular. We saw some scenes where people were doing some pretty, crazy things to be a part of what he was doing, but very, very difficult to come by. And remember, this isn't a leader who's flush from a new victory. Here's a man who's now been in power for close to 10 years. And if you have this level of enthusiasm amongst your supporters after being in power for 10 years, that is a special connection that Prime Minister Modi continues to enjoy. And this is here in the United States, and these really aren't even his voters. I mean, they're his supporters, and they have some influence, say, back home from wherever they come, some from Bengal, some from Uttarakhand, like all over the place really. But that level of enthusiasm and that emotional connect with people of Indian origin, Indian nationals across the world is really, Akshita, one of the biggest assets that the Prime Minister has, is that very, very deep, abiding connect, which just seems to go on and holds him in good stead, and is one of the biggest amplifiers and boosters of the India-America relationship.
Rahul, if you can hear me, one hand you've got all of this excitement, the optics, the photo ops and whatnot, but it comes down to really the business at hand and all of the deals that will be inked. Very, very significant visit on that front as well. And I know the visit hasn't ended, that you've got a lot more coming, but so far, Rahul, what to you has been the biggest takeaway, keeping in mind also the announcement on the deals that have been inked a few hours ago?
I must just tell you that maybe because the signals are being impacted because of all the radio frequency jammers that I hear with all the security that's in place, I am now not fully able to hear. Plus, they're turning up the music. As we get closer to 10 a.m. Eastern time here in Washington, D.C., the level of the music goes on, so I hear you less and less. But I hear the people behind us more and more, and their level of support and enthusiasm is quite high. And this despite the fact that it's beginning to rain more strongly. The rain continues to get stronger and stronger, and despite that, the level of enthusiasm amongst people stays very high. Hey, hi guys, where you've come from?
We're from Washington, D.C., and we're so excited to welcome Prime Minister.
How do you think the Prime Minister's visit is going so far?
I hear it's going really well. I heard he had a lovely time in New York.
And he had a good time in D.C. last evening as well.
Yes.
What's been the highlight of this trip for you?
This is, for me, a dream which became true. My son is in the Indian Army as colonel. I'm really proud parent to come and visit.
How nice. Where is your son posted, ma'am?
Now he is posted in Coimbatore.
How nice.
We are very, very blessed to have him here.
Fantastic. Where are you from, sir?
I'm from Virginia. We are very happy Modi is here. We welcome him.
It's good to have you.
We came from IASA. We know each other. Purnima Warrior, we met before in Davos Economic Forum. I'm very well.
You're wearing a lovely sari. How's the dress? How's the day been for you? It's raining, but I see that's not impacting the enthusiasm of everyone who's here at all.
Nothing can dampen the enthusiasm of 7,000 Indians present in the South Lawn of the White House. And we are all so excited and waiting to get a glimpse of Modi ji. This is a moment of pride. You see a princess from Nigeria here with our group. She's wearing a hat. Let me take you if you want to come a little bit this side.
You can request her to come this side. I don't think I'll be allowed over there. Okay, yeah, sure. We can see some people at the back as well. Okay, just 1 second. Sir, yes. Where are you from?
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Good, good.
What's been the highlight of the Prime Minister's trip for you so far?
So this is a historical visit, and on behalf of Federation of Indian Association, we are in 8 states. We are the largest umbrella organization welcoming Prime Minister. This is a historic event that everybody's thrilled about this. And Prime Minister's message is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. World is one family. All together, prosperity, peace and love, which we're seeing here. And I believe that our Prime Minister is a Yug Purush of the century, and he will lead the world in the right direction.
It's interesting. High pace for the Prime Minister, ma'am. You've come from Nigeria.
Hi.
Hello, it's lovely to see you.
Yes, my name is Princess Philomena Desmond Ogugwa.
Oh, how nice.
I'm from the Igbo tribe in Nigeria.
Lovely to meet you.
Yes.
So what brings you here this morning?
I'm a Modi fan.
Really? Why are you a Modi fan?
Because I see the good things he's doing in India.
What do you think he's done in India?
The economic development, trying to bring all tribe and all religion together, making everybody to be saying, I'm proudly Indian. You could see in the United States now, most of the Fortune 500 companies, all of them are run by Indians. It's because of the trust.
Partners today.
It's because of the trust. And I have been in India many times.
Yeah.
I've worked with the Association of Businesswomen Entrepreneurs of India. I've brought them to United States to meet their counterparts. And I have taken African businesswomen also to India. And in my country, Nigeria of origin, there are a lot of Indians. Most of them are now Nigerians. And they own their businesses 100% in India, in Nigeria. They are good people. We love them. Most of them are Africans by birth. Their great-grandparents, you see them in Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, all over.
Great to meet you, and thank you so much. And I wish you all the best. I hope you have a great day.
Yes,
thank you. Cheers. Yes.
We want to get the second generation Indians right there.
Okay, let me try and she's sending me towards you to see if we can try and get a word in. Okay, I'm going to give you the mic. You can say something and then give the mic back to me, okay? Last time I lost the mic for a very long time. Tell us where you're from.
I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah.
What's been the highlight of the trip so far for you?
Oh, just seeing him there and waiting for him for hours now. So we're just waiting to see him.
Hi, we're here from New York City. We're so excited to be here. We grew up in the U.S., and so it's nice for us to be here and be able to blend our cultures.
Hi, I'm Anjali Boria from Denver, Colorado. We have New York here and Michigan here. We're so excited to be here and proud to be Indian American.
I'm from Michigan and so proud to be an Indian and American. We love Modi ji.
I am from California, Silicon Valley.
We are 14 of us staying here together. We have come to celebrate this occasion.
I'm from New Jersey. We travel at like morning 2 a.m. We are here for Modi. We are here for Modi.
My name is Vikas. I am from New Jersey, originally from Jaipur, Rajasthan. Big fan of Prime Minister Modi. Thank you for covering us.
Hello, I am Sheila Ramanan, Tamil Nadu newspaper Dinamalar. I came from San Antonio. Happy to be here.
I just want to go across for a moment. Stay. I promise to come back to you in just a moment. I want to go across to Ashwani Vaishnav. Ashwani Vaishnav is India's Minister for Telecom, IT, Railways. Mr. Vaishnav, we're currently at the south lawns of the White House, waiting for Prime Minister Narendra Modi to come here with the American President in a short while from now. And I want to spend a moment with you about this big Micron announcement. $850 million, the CEO of Micron announcing they'll be investing in India. So can you give our viewers a sense of what this means in tangible terms? Where is this Micron investment likely to be made? By when will we see their manufacturing beginning, and why do you think this is as big a deal, and how does this rank with all the efforts you've been making so far in trying to get India's semiconductor mission going? Minister Vaishnav, welcome.
Rahul, the semiconductor industry is one industry in which India and US have decided to have a strategic partnership. We have common interest, we have common goals, and there is a huge talent base out here in India. The entire US semiconductor industry also has a large number of Indian technical leadership. All that is today combined into a system where India and US will be co-creating technologies. There will be two countries will become one strategic partnership in which we will be looking at multiple options in semiconductor development. You are aware that Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji had approved a policy for semiconductor development in India that is progressing very well. You should be anticipating some good announcements to be made tomorrow, and those announcements will lay a very strong foundation for India's semiconductor industry.
Why is this so significant? I mean, there are a couple of things that I want to build on. One, the fact that there is a semiconductor glut in terms of manufacturing capacity worldwide. So you already have a lot more manufacturing capacity than required. Secondly, India comes in very late into the semiconductor party because we're already several years behind semiconductor technological developments. How much time do you think it would take for India to catch up? And this concern that's been voiced by some skeptics about there being overcapacity existing, and therefore if our hope is to make India a semiconductor hub, manufacturing hub, how likely is that, given that there is globally in China and elsewhere a big oversupply? Minister.
See, semiconductor industry is practically doubling in the next 7 to 8 years. It's $650 billion today. It's going to be 1 trillion plus in the coming years. The current dip that you see, that is not reflecting the secular growth of the consistent growth of the industry. Today, the demand for semiconductors is increasing in practically every manufacturing sector, every industrial sector. What we are seeing today is when the world is looking for a trusted global value chain partner, India is filling that place. India is emerging the most important ecosystem partner in semiconductors. There are 4 reasons for that. First, the large talent base and our commitment to develop 80,000 more engineers over the next 10 years. And we have taken very consistent steps in that. Second, a very strong electronics manufacturing industry, which is today 100 billion plus. So domestic demand is increasing day by day. More industries are coming, more component manufacturers are coming, IT hardware is coming. All that is clearly visible to the world. Third, the strategic partnership between India and US. Fourth, the very strong design base that we have in the country today. Combine all this with the thoughtful ecosystem development that our government is doing under Prime Minister Modi ji's leadership, the world today sees India as the natural big semiconductor manufacturer in the coming years. So whatever we are seeing today are the first steps and the major steps which are building the foundation and which are creating the ecosystem. We should not repeat the mistakes that many countries did. The countries which did not focus on ecosystem could not go beyond a point. That's why our focus is very much on getting the units and in parallel building the ecosystem.
Minister Vaishnav, India isn't a formal alliance partner of the United States and never likely will be. Despite that, these technological transfers that the US seems to be agreeing to, how significant do you view that as being? For example, I mean, it's not really your ministry, but just broadly, the fact that GE 414 jet engines are being made available to India and you know, what you deal with, emerging and critical technologies as part of the initiative called ISET, a lot of high-end technology which otherwise wouldn't be made available to India now being made available, and that really helps take the India-America relationship to a different level.
Absolutely. There are two aspects of it. One is, of course, some of the critical technologies which India didn't have. Those technologies are now being made available to the country and we can develop them together, we can manufacture basis that. There is another very important and very crucial point. That point is India and US are today looking at each other as co-creators, co-developers, technological partners of each other. It's not just technology transfer from one country to the other. Take the example of ORAN, Open RAN. In Open RAN, in telecom, which is the biggest thing which is happening today, India and US are co-developing Open RAN. See the fundamental difference. Alliance, one looks at as, okay, there is one partner, there is another one, right? Which is dependent upon the other partner, which is dependent upon the bigger partner. Here we are looking at two countries which are today technological partners looking at developing technologies together, working on projects which are at cutting edge, where what we develop together will be useful for both and useful for the world. That's the fundamental directional shift which has happened.
Do you want to spend a moment talking about the kind of personal popularity? I want to show you some of the scenes, Minister. I don't know if you can see, but this is a man in his 10th year in office, and the kind of smiles he's bringing to people's face, the kind of enthusiasm that we're seeing, it's quite surreal. It almost feels as if it's part of a film set, except that it's not. These are real people. They've come from California, Texas, many from Canada. They've come from all over. And the interesting thing is that a lot of the people who are ordinarily at the White House, like the Americans, they're very amused. You know, they're looking at this because so many world leaders come and they go, and nobody generates quite this mass hysteria or cult-like popularity which the Indian Prime Minister does. And I'm quite certain that President Biden would be quite envious. This is his lawns after all. This is his house, and the name that's being chanted is not that of the American Prime Minister, but rather that of the Indian not that of the American President, but rather that of the Indian Prime Minister, which would make any Neta quite envious, Minister.
See, Rahul, leadership comes in various forms. There is the highest level of leadership, which I would say is moral authority. When a leader commands respect, generates that level of trust which today Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has developed, he generates trust among people. People believe him, people trust him, people are willing to, you have seen during COVID, on his one sentence, people are willing to do a Janta curfew without deploying a single policeman. That's the trust people have in him. People know that whatever he is going to do is going to be good for the country. That is the trust which is clearly visible in his moral authority, which is attracting people, making them feel so loyal to him all over the world.
Well, we leave it there just for the time being. Thank you very much, Minister Ashwini Vaishnav. You've been through a rough phase, a very challenging phase with that terrible train tragedy in Balasore. But it was quite remarkable how you were out on the ground, holding the fort, trying to, rouse the railway officials. And I just hope that all the lessons that the railways and you've learned will lead to the Indian railways becoming much more safe. In any case, most of the numbers of accident, etc., were showing a declining trend. But to be able to make it as fail-proof as possible. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Really appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you.
So that was the Indian Telecom Minister Ashwini Vaishnav. We're here at the White House where you're now literally counting down. We're just about 40 minutes odd to go for the Indian Prime Minister to come here. The grounds of the White House are now quite full. I see there's a nice little putting range here. I'm not sure if President Biden is much of a golfer and whether he gets a chance to be out there. But there's some nice ideas, there's some nice color visible over here, and hopefully some of this, all the people from the Prime Minister's team and the other who are here, some of the ideas which can be taken back will be taken back. They also have very nice waiting area. Like they have these nice tents where the media can stand and do their lives. I mean, we of course don't have them, which is why I'm out in the rain. But the American media has these very nice long tents, shamiyanas, small shamiyanas. They've got heaters inside over there. They're standing there. They have a backdrop which looks into the White House, but they're all covered. So I think there's some good ideas. If anybody's watching, especially if you're in government, and given the number of messages I'm getting, so clearly a lot of people seem to be watching, please do take these observations very, very seriously. It would be nice to have some of that stuff at Vijay Chowk and elsewhere where everyone, is more comfortable than our reporters are when they're out in the sun, the cold, the winds, the rains at Vijay Chowk. But anyway, no harm suggesting it. Let's see if anything comes off it or not. But clearly, safety, comfort, very, very critical here, so that everybody's not out in the cold and out in the winter. So anyway, let me just turn around. They're all and show you the practice that's going on. There's like a dry run taking everyone through the routines for this morning's program. And in a while from now, the American president will be here. Let's just listen in. Okay, I want to go across now to Elbridge Colby. Elbridge Colby is the co-founder of the Marathon Initiative, a policy initiative focused on developing strategies in the United States for sustained great power competition. He's the author of the Strategy of Denial, American Defense in the Age of Great Power Conflict, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Strategy and Force Development. Elbridge Colby, welcome to India Today's live coverage. I'm broadcasting this morning from the South Lawns of the White House. How much of what we're seeing at this moment between India and the United States is as a reflex to China emerging as the primary threat for both our countries, like the GE 414 technology transfer? Would some of that happen if China hadn't been as big a danger for both countries right now, Mr. Colby?
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you and your audience. Pleasure. Look, I think the answer is honestly yes. Obviously, the two governments are not going to stress this point, but I think one of the things that I actually really appreciate about the foreign policy perspective of the Modi government is its candor and realism and sort of being unafraid about talking about strategic and geopolitical rivalries. So I'll pay the compliment back. And I wish that we pursued that a little bit more here in Washington. But I think absolutely. Look, the United States and India obviously have people-to-people ties, trade, et cetera. But that's true with many countries, and it has been true for some time. What I think is really driving the relationship is a deep alignment of interests. And actually, that is the most stable grounding for a serious long-term relationship, because although it's possible China will collapse, I think it's very, very unlikely. And, I have a very different view from what President Biden said the other day in California. I think China is serious as a heart attack. I think it has an enormous and growing economy. It's competing at the forefront of technology. It's pushing countries around, obviously Philippines and others in the South China Sea, Taiwan, and of course India, where there's been direct clashes along the line of actual control, etc. So I think this is what's really motivating both sides to push. I think the relationship goes back 20 years, the sort of new relationship goes back about 20 years. But for a long time, it was very desultory and kind of plodding. And I think things stepped up in the last couple of years. And to credit this administration, I think this visit and the announcements of it are a major step forward. But I think that's, basically based on an alignment of shared interests.
The American Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, visited Beijing. It seemed as an effort to try and de-escalate mounting tensions and find a way of de-risking, if not disengaging. And soon after, President Biden was quoted as calling Xi Jinping a dictator. Where do you see the trajectory of relations between Beijing and DC go from this moment, on the back of Anthony Blinken's comments and on the back of what the president just said?
Well, I think the thaw, frankly, was mostly a projection from the American side, largely optical and unrealistic. And the Chinese never gave really any impression that there was a thaw. I think the president's comments have, sort of put the sort of formalized what was already going to be inevitable, which was that the rivalry is deep and structural. The United States and China are not going to go to a G2. They're not going to be able to compete while cooperating. This administration line, some elements of the administration that want to cooperate on climate and non-proliferation, because as Xi Jinping says, it basically implies the relationship is essentially zero-sum. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't ways of making it less dangerous. That's important, and I do think it's important to talk, and of course India, Japan, other countries do talk to the Chinese, but we shouldn't be deluded about what's actually going to happen. We are in a very, very dangerous time, and just having a nice meeting, a photo op, by the way, which was, I would say, kind of a supplicant set of photos of Secretary Blinken. It was not a good image. That's not going to change anything fundamental.
There are also the likes of several experts like Ashley Tellis who've come out and struck a discordant note, basically suggesting caution to President Biden, saying that don't expect India to be on your side if China were to attack Taiwan, for example. What are you making of these discordant voices of people who've tracked the India-America relationship but seem to be advocating a point of view quite different from the position the current Biden administration has taken, Mr. Colby?
Well, I'm always hesitant to have a different view, especially on India than Ashley Tellis, because he's really a brilliant person, not only on the India relationship, but more broadly. But I fundamentally disagree with his article on foreign affairs. My impression of the Indian government and its behavior is that it has a very strong stand on China. It's not deliberately provocative or sort of gratuitous, frankly, in the way that President Biden's comments were the other night. It's careful, but it's also firm and strong. I think what I will say is, and I wrote a piece in the Hindustan Times after being in Delhi earlier this year, I do think the Indian government and system should appreciate more the danger of a conflict over Taiwan, because such a conflict, God forbid, if it happened, would be much larger than just a narrow conflict over Taiwan. And if the United States is not prepared, and our allies are not prepared, it could lead to the defeat of the United States in the Western Pacific. And if this happened, China would be essentially uninhibited in its ability to project power into the South Asia and the Indian Ocean area. So the famous comment, I believe it was Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers, said, we can hang separately or we can stand together. And I think it's not that India would contribute militarily to a defense of Taiwan, but I think India should see its interests as directly implicated in a Taiwan conflict, and that it's quite possible in this decade. I mean, the Chinese are building and practicing a military specifically to do that. And I was at the Shangri-La dialogue a few weeks ago in Singapore, and of course they openly say they reserve the right to use force to resolve the issue in their favor.
Alright, they're now playing some Hindi music at the South Lawn of the White House, and the crowd's behind me going completely nuts and bonkers. Thank you very much, Mr. Colby, for joining us. I want to see if I can get a word in from Seema Sirohi. Seema! So, this is Seema Sirohi. She's tracked
relations here between India and the United States in Washington DC for a very long time. They're playing some Hindi music here and the crowd seem to be loving it. The rains don't matter.
Yeah, I mean, this time the rally is at the White House, not in Chicago or Atlanta or New York.
Why do something at Houston or at Madison Square Garden when you can do a virtual rally on the lawns of the South?
Right. I mean, I'm just amazed at the number of people who have braved the rain and come through security and been here for hours.
So you track other visits as well, Seema, here when other world leaders come. How is it different? I see a lot of the officials who are at the White House, the security guys and the protocol guys, they're looking very amused. They've not seen something like this.
They haven't. And there's a little bit of Bollywood flavor. It's masala visit, really.
But as far as the substance of this trip is concerned, the announcements around GE 414, what else are you expecting would be announced through the day today?
I think there'll be many steps announced in terms of defense cooperation. One of the biggest hurdles that has been in this relationship is the export controls. So this time the Biden administration is taking real measures to bring those down. And that's going to be very important. And there'll be announcements for cooperation in space. And both NASA and ISRO are going to...
I really like that they've got this music, they've got a nice buzz and feel, they've got a carnival-like atmosphere to the whole thing. It doesn't feel like a formal, stodgy visit.
This is my favorite song.
Seema Siro is joining the rally as well.
No, this is an old-time favorite.
I think some of these ideas we could take back, right? Because it just makes it that much more real. It's not like all very proper and stuck up.
A lot of thought went into this, welcome ceremony. They've been working at it for months. Choosing the music, choosing the delicacies for dinner. I mean, they really worked hard.
Thanks, I'm going to catch you in just a moment, okay? Yes? Okay, I'm going to give you the mic, okay? Yeah. Are you're grooving to Chaya Chaya? Modi, 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 Modi is the
आज सिर्फ मोदी आज सिर्फ मोदी
Modi is a Vishwa Guru. He is the leader of the whole world.
So,
India is rising. India is rising.
We want India and America to be best friend in the world. We want the transfer of technology to the India for defense power, energy power, healthcare power. We love Narendra Modi. We love the oldest democracy, the biggest democracy in the world. We're proud of Narendra Damodar Modi.
Mr. Modi is a global leader, and we want Mr. Modi to establish the peaceful relationships with our neighboring countries and with the United States. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This, as Seema just said, is the rally coming to the White House. This is quite different from, frankly, what I'd imagined when we came here. It's also quite different from what happens when you go to Rashtrapati Bhavan or to the Indian Parliament. They're singing, they're dancing, they're doing a Chaya Chaya number here. To Salvatore Babones. He joins us on this broadcast. Mr. Babones, these are quite surreal scenes. I thought I've seen in my time quite a few surreal scenes, but this is taking it to a whole different plane. What are you making of the announcements that have been made so far as part of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Washington, D.C.?
Technology sharing is clearly an important step in the relationship. It does represent a certain level of trust. Now, partly it also is because of limited manufacturing capacity in the United States. So if the United States is going to sell those GE engines to India, they probably have to be made in India. or India would have to wait a decade to get them. So in a way, it's not surprising, but on the other hand, it is a show of confidence in India, in its democratic institutions, confidence that India is a safe place for United States technology to be manufactured. This is notably different, for example, from the relationship between Russia and China. Russia suspended jet engine sales to China about a decade ago because they were worried about China reverse engineering its engines and ultimately stealing its technology. With India, there just aren't those concerns. And this is something I've been writing about really for the past 3 years or so, that India is able to work with Western partners like France, like the United States, because India has a rule of law regime that is very different not only from China, but from most of the developing world.
We're also seeing some pushback now around some of these rankings that have been coming out, and you, Mr. Babons, have been, very key part of that pushback. There are some discordant voices asking the Biden administration to do more in terms of questioning what's happening in India, and quite sensibly, the Biden administration focusing on what is really important, trying to build this relationship with India and try and take it to the next plane, rather than getting caught with those few voices on the margins who would seek to create trouble at a time of immense, geopolitical competition with China.
There is a lot of mendacity in the rankings. Now, I don't think many Americans are very aware of the democracy rankings, but what seems to have caught traction on Capitol Hill in the U.S. is the idea that Muslims face severe repression in India. Now, we have very good data to show that that's not true. Usually these kind of allegations go out into the ether, and who knows if they're true or false. And, Congress people pick them up because their constituents say that, this is a problem. Their constituents go to them, their funders go to them and ask them to condemn India because of its supposed repression of Muslims. But in fact, we have very good data on Muslims themselves in India. Indian Muslims tell us on surveys that they face very little discrimination. Indian Muslims tell us on surveys that they're free to practice their religion in India. And India's Muslims on surveys tell us that they're extraordinarily proud to be Indian. So this is something I really want to get across to the Indian audience, that the problems with American politicians picking up a narrative of Muslim oppression in India, that does not originate with India's own Muslims. That narrative originates with Muslim Americans, often from other countries. I mean, most notoriously, Ilhan Omar, the U.S. representative from Minnesota, she's a Somali refugee to the United States. She has no connection to India whatsoever, as far as I know. And yet she's saying that Muslims face a genocide in India in the 2020s. Now, that kind of talk is really ridiculous, but it doesn't originate in India. And that's the message I really want to get out.
Thanks, Mr. Babons, for joining us. I just want to walk up for a moment and try and show our viewers some of the scenes here, because when you're up, you actually get a much better view of what's happening. Oh, just 2 minutes? 2 minutes? Okay, the security lady doesn't want me to go up, but it's actually very nice if I could have taken you up. But we will follow what the lady is saying, and that's no problem. It's getting quite packed, and as I said, they're just playing American numbers, they're playing Bollywood numbers, and the rally has come to the White House. It'll be interesting to see how President Biden makes this. These ultimately are his lawns. We're in his official house, and it feels like a very desi party. It feels like a very, very big desi party being held on the lawns of the White House this morning. Let's go back with this to the studio.
Well, we're going to keep coming back to you, but a carnival-like atmosphere there. In just about 20 minutes, there will be a ceremonial welcome where the Prime Minister is concerned, the Indian Prime Minister is concerned at the White House. The White House clearly pulling out all the stops to welcome Prime Minister Modi. It's a state visit, the highest level of diplomatic protocol rolled out by the United States of America, which is accorded to Mr. Modi. He'll be given in just a short while, viewers, in about 20 minutes from now, as per protocol, Prime Minister Modi will be given a ceremonial welcome at the White House before he holds direct talks with the President of the United States, Joe Biden. To put this in perspective, what we saw yesterday, the yoga, soft power diplomacy, the fine print, the language of that also changing. But what we are going to see today is going to be very hard talk when it comes down to defense deals, most of them unprecedented, historic. We're going to delve into that in just a short while from now. But I just want to take our viewers through on what we can expect. And as Rahul Kawal and Geeta Mohan, my colleagues who've been joining us right outside the White House, they'll be reeling as the events unfold there. What to expect? Well, like I pointed out, 20 minutes from now, Prime Minister Modi will be given a ceremonial welcome inside the White House. If outside is a carnival-like atmosphere with the Indian diaspora, some of them have come in all the way from Canada to welcome the Indian Prime Minister. A sense of jubilation. For many, it's India's moment, historic, at many levels. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But what we're expecting, a ceremonial welcome in the next 20 minutes for the Prime Minister at the White House. After that, there will be bilateral talks which will be held between Prime Minister Modi and President Joe Biden. And that is where defense deals, which practically are the core of the